There are two scenes in the iconic holiday road trip comedy Planes, Trains, and Automobiles that are so funny, so sharply written, and so memorable that Steve Martin, one of the film's co-leads, couldn't resist agreeing to do the movie after reading just those two scenes. Good thing too, because Steve Martin and John Candy make for one of the greatest comedic pairings in all of 80s cinema. And this movie is exactly what made that statement true.
$6 and my right nut says we're not landing in Chicago.
I know you, don't I?
Why did you kiss my ear? Why are you holding my hand?
First you delay me, then you bump me. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Folks, today we're talking about everybody's favorite Thanksgiving movie and one of the greatest comedy movies ever.
Do you think so?
In 1985, John Hughes wrote a screenplay for a Thanksgiving travel film after experiencing his own hellish holiday travel, which resulted in his flights constantly being rerouted or delayed or canceled due to weather, which made it impossible for him to get home on time. A universal topic that many of us could relate to. And despite his immense frustration, he couldn't help but see the comedy in the situation and imagine himself going through this with a stranger he was forced to travel with and the wild antics that could unfold as a result. And by 1987, this experience turned inspiration became a movie, and that movie became a holiday classic. So let's talk about it.
Super! Fabulous! Isn't that nice?
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is the 1987 comedy that follows Neal Page and Dale Griffith, played by lovable comedians Steve Martin and John Candy respectively. Neal is a successful businessman who is trying to catch a flight home from New York to Chicago to be with his wife and kid for the holidays. Along the way, he meets Dale.
Hey, future Kier here. I noticed in the video there's a couple points that I say Dale. I know that the character's name is Del. I don't know why I said. There's a few more times I say it, just bear with me.
A blue-collar traveling salesman who is also trying to make it to Chicago, but for reasons that won't be revealed until later in the movie. What follows is a rocky road to get home, complete with flight delays, car fires, stolen wallets, nasty hotel rooms, and not to mention the one thing that really makes it all so much funnier: two characters that can't stand each other.
You play with your balls a lot.
In the same camp as movies like Vacation, Tommy Boy, or Dumb and Dumber, the idea is that the characters themselves are the source of the comedy, while the bombastic and otherwise frustrating situations they find themselves in are there to serve as fuel to the fire. And for this movie in particular, John Candy playing a lovable, if not kind of dense sweetheart, and Steve Martin's boiling rage and annoyed reactions to John Candy are what make this movie timeless. Of course, this is all by design, and really it's a result of really good casting.
John was smart. He would let scenes unfold, and he would just let the camera run. And if you let those two talents do what they do best, he's going to get what he wants.
Anyway, it's been interesting.
That's the understatement of the year.
After writing the script, which initially would have seen this movie have like a 4-hour runtime, Steve Martin recalled that it was really only two scenes that made him want to take the role of Neal Page. He said that these two scenes made the role irresistible for an actor. The first is the iconic scene where Dale is constantly messing with the position of his seat in the car while the two were on the road. The constant shifting of positions and lack of mobility for somebody Candy's size inside of that tiny car really make for some funny physical comedy, but it's Steve Martin's reaction to this that really drives it home.
Oh, that's humor. Oh, that's real humor.
According to Steve Martin, this scene made him laugh out loud as he was reading it. But even more interesting, and maybe even more funny, is the second scene that Steve Martin cites as why he took this role, which happens to be the scene where Neal approaches Edie McClurg's flight attendant character, one of the most memorable bit roles in any movie, I think, and unloads a string of F-bombs on her that is equal parts intimidating and fucking hilarious.
Your company left me in the middle of fucking nowhere with fucking keys to a fucking
car that isn't fucking there.
Steve Martin read that scene, asked Hughes if there was any room for improvisation, and when Hughes gladly said that there was, he took the role on the spot. And folks, improvise, they did. Both Steve Martin and Edie McClurg had fun bouncing and slinging F-words at each other left and right while trying to keep a straight face. According to John Hughes, Edie McClurg freestyled that one-way conversation she's having on the phone when Steve Martin approaches her desk.
Yeah, well, I'll see you tomorrow then. Gobble, gobble.
And that improvisation was so funny and so authentic to John Hughes that that's the take that made it into the final cut of the movie. McClurg later said that she just drew inspiration from real conversations that she would have with her family. And to this day, according to Edie McClurg, she still will get stopped by strangers on the street and ask for her to tell them, "You're fucked." If I ever see Edie McClurg, I'm gonna ask for either that or for her to call me a righteous dude.
They think he's a righteous dude.
Shout out Edie McClurg. And just because I don't know where I'll get another chance to do this, let's count the number of F words that are in this 1 minute sequence.
Fucking, 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 fucking. You're fucked.
I think that makes it like 19 or something like that. Candy and Martin were already real-life friends before this movie went into production, but both of them had agreed in certain interviews for the movie that this movie is each of their favorite films that they've done, meaning this is Steve Martin's favorite Steve Martin movie, which honestly is close, and this is John Candy's favorite John Candy movie, which honestly is close. It's just like hard to pick favorites, especially for me when it comes to Steve Martin. It's a tall order.
If I wanted a joke, I'd follow you into the John and watch you take a leak.
And this is ironic because we recently just talked about another John Hughes Thanksgiving holiday road trip movie when we talked about underrated cult classic Dutch. And famously, Ed O'Neill hates his role in that movie and does not think he was the right fit, where ironically Steve Martin and John Candy of the other John Hughes fare happen to find this one to be their best. All I'm saying is you could watch both movies as a double feature and it makes for a pretty interesting experience. Also, because we're talking about the cast and I don't really know where else to put this, shout out to that hilarious Kevin Bacon cameo where he and Steve Martin race each other to catch a cab in the busy NYC street during the holidays. It's probably less of a standout now that Kevin Bacon is like a huge movie star, but at the time he hadn't really been seen in much and this was kind of just like a random silent bit role. It was really funny to see. Now, when I said that Hughes' original cut for this movie was nearly 4 hours long, I was not kidding. And that wasn't just the script. During production, which took place all around the United States, it's reported that Hughes shot nearly 600,000 feet of film, which in today's digital terms means that he filmed about 110 hours of footage. For reference, that's about double the standard for a movie like this at the time. This movie was originally planned to be like Lord of the Rings, but for suburban dads.
We shot more film on that film, I think, than on any movie I've ever done.
The idea of filming so much footage was to show the layers in the characters' inevitable bonding. The original cut of the film had a subplot where Neal's wife starts to suspect him of having an affair, and she sees that as the reason why he's not gonna make it home on time. But in the final cut, Hughes felt that that was somewhat emotionally combative to everything else already going on in the story, and that was one of the first things to get cut, which honestly, I'm kinda glad it did. But what was also sacrificed was multiple scenes of slapstick shenanigans that we may never see. And supposedly there is still a longer version of this movie somewhere out in the ether, but nobody has any idea where it might be. And while it is disappointing that multiple funny scenes were cut from this movie, I gotta say, this movie is so much more than just comedy. And I actually think that the fact that it was trimmed down so much really allows the emotional layers of this movie to shine through, something that could get lost if you have too many gags here and there. And probably the biggest emotional surprise of the film, which was kept secret until nearly the end of the movie, is that Dale has been not entirely truthful with Neal. In fact, he's been lying to him the whole time.
I don't have a home. Marie's been dead for 8 years.
See, early in their meeting, Dale tells Neal about his loving wife and beautiful, lovely family that he's got back home, and this includes showing him a picture of his wife, which we see Dale hold on to the entire film. However, in an emotional twist and after many of this duo's falling outs, it's revealed that Dale's wife is dead, and has been for years, and his home base that he couldn't stop pining over doesn't exist. Dale is living out of a giant obnoxious trunk that he's been carrying around and bouncing from city to city, selling his shower curtain rings. It stings by the time you get there in the movie. It really fucking hurts.
When I think of John's films, they're really more about the struggle for the kids' movies of growing up and all the pains that one goes through. And I think the same thing with Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Here is two sad people in their own way who then rely on each other to get out of themselves.
So in this moment, this funny, goofy, ridiculous road trip comedy becomes a reminder of how many sweet and genuine people are alone during the holidays. It shines a light on what Neal's problem has been this whole time. He didn't offer any companionship to the one person that he's stuck traveling with. He only made this deeply lonely person feel more lonely.
I could be a cold-hearted cynic like you, but I don't like to hurt people's feelings.
Dude, forget what anyone says. This scene made me cry even as a child, and probably even more so now. Of course, by the end of the trip and the movie, Dale is invited to spend Thanksgiving with Steve Martin and his family. And that makes me feel so much better. Because that small but significant reveal in the story changed this movie's legacy. Because while many first assumed it would be a typical buddy comedy, the film's sharp mix of physical humor, relatable desperation, and heartfelt moments struck a chord with viewers. Steve Martin had this to say about John Candy in an interview. Well, he was a sweet guy, very sweet, and complicated, and so he was always friendly, always outgoing, and, you know, funny and nice and polite, but I could tell that he had kind of a little broken heart in him. And as for some trivia for this movie, you know, in case you want to spout out any facts while you're watching it with your family over the holidays, did you know that this exterior shot from the movie is actually recycled from another iconic Paramount film, Airplane? Since the studio owned it, they just let them use it. And also, did you know that the scene where Dylan Baker spits into his palm before shaking Steve Martin's hand was completely improvised, which also means that Steve Martin's disgusted reaction to that is also improvised.
Chicago? Hi.
And funnily enough, this movie ends with almost the exact same shot as another John Candy film, Uncle Buck. Basically just ending with a freeze frame close-up of John Candy making that smirk while the music plays. That's just a fun little interconnected Easter egg, I guess. The film earned over 3 times its original production budget and quickly became a Thanksgiving time staple. Frequent re-releases, special editions, and regular appearances on holiday viewing lists have solidified its status for decades. The pairing of Martin and Candy, and then you throw in John Hughes to the mix, what you really get is a recipe for an all-time classic. And it's one with comedy, high emotion, and even better yet, long-lasting timelessness that makes it fun for every generation. This is something that our kids' could enjoy.
You know, that's a damn rare thing these days.
And folks, that is the story of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. A wonderful holiday film that is sure to bring out the laughs and maybe some tears this holiday season. And while it's sad to remember that John Hughes and John Candy have both passed on, it's movies like this that remind us that their legacy goes far beyond. Because of their work, because of their dedication, and because of their comedy, we are gonna remember them for years and years and years. And you know, maybe that's what Thanksgiving is all about.
You want to take a shower? No.
Man, I love this movie, and I'm assuming you also love this movie, but let me know what your thoughts are on it down below. Is this one that you watch every year like I do, or is it kind of a treat that you just revisit once in a while and you always feel fondly about it?
Wow.
All that and whatever else you want to tell me goes in the comments down below, but most importantly, folks, happy Thanksgiving. And this year, all of us at JoBlo are thankful for you. So let's close out the year with a bang, and I'll see you guys in December. Peace. Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.